Yesterday when I was at work, a colleague of mine who I've only been working with for 2 months, but he noticed within that 2 months, and as of yesterday, he mentioned to me, he goes, mate, you've lost a bit of size there, haven't you? You know, you've been training and Kia ora tanako, te lofa lava, bonjour, all of the above, hope we all rose your Donald, because I'm not too Bradley Cooper to be Frank Sinatra. Now, what do we know, what do we don't fucking know? Those are two questions that we ask ourselves on a day-to-day basis. Now, what I do know is that yesterday when I was at work, a colleague of mine who I've only been working with for 2 months, but he noticed within that 2 months, and as of yesterday, he mentioned to me, he goes, mate, you've lost a bit of size there, haven't you? You know, you've been training and, you know, in the realm of, let's say, the feminine energy or the woman side of things, people would see that as an insult, you know, body shaming, if you will. But in the realm of men and masculinity is that that's accountability. And, you know, even a lot of men would find that insulting. In fact, they'd get all shitty about it and all upset and go, oh, fuck you, you know, like, rah, fuck that guy. But I saw it as a compliment. I saw it as like a fucking, a helping hand up, a little bit of a fucking, a little bit of a mirror showing up to my face and realizing that I know that I've lost a lot of size. You know, I used to be about 96, 7 kgs and I'm down to 89 again. And for me, I lose a lot of weight because naturally I'm a faster of my whole life. You know, eaten little or fasted all day and then smashed a big meal at the end of the day, and that was my life in the trades for a long period of time. You know, also as a smoker or as a drinker or as a partier, and so when you kind of put all of that into place, a lot of calories came from your drinking, a lot of your no eating became because you were, you know, smoking darts and having coffees and energy drinks and all that kind of shit as a tradie, and we all know that, right? So when he told me that yesterday, I was like, oh, that was exactly what I needed. I just needed somebody to fucking tell me, you know, to kick my ass into gear, because then I like fuel, I like doubt, I like people saying X, Y, Z about me, and therefore me having something to prove, right? And it's to prove to myself, but also to, you know, like to walk back in a month's time or 2 months time and be the biggest fucking jack motherfucker in there, and people go, shit, you've put on size. And that's even more, adding more fuel to the fire when you do that. So I just thought I'd share this with you. Day one of me getting myself back into the gym, back into routine, and back to, you know, being what I used to look like, which was like this. And, you know, I now look like this. And eventually I'm going to look like this. One of those things where, you know, you can either choose to see it as an insult, which is just your ego talking, you know, because there's a couple things that I've learned in my life. One thing is jealousy. If you reframe it as admiration, then you'll understand that there is no such thing as jealousy, because what you admire in another person is what you should acquire, right? Usually when you admire something in somebody else, it's because you actually admire the skill that they have that you haven't developed yet. And if it's a skill, then you can learn it. And if you can learn it, then you can apply it. And if you can apply it, it means that you can actually acquire it, right? So never ever utilize, you know, because emotions are just notifications for self-preservation, all right? So when you feel an emotion, it doesn't mean that you should feel shitty about it and sit and sulk about it. You should actually understand what that emotion means, why that brought that sort of emotion up in you, understand it, absorb it, and then, you know, use it and reframe it as admiration, you know? So it's like when in sales, you know, there's a guy that turned up 2 months ago, the guy who actually told me I was quite small or whatever it was, or lost size. He came in and just fucking blew all of our socks off. The guy just bet all of us the last 2 months in sales, and by a long shot, almost doubled our sales, and it made us all look silly. And the guys that before he started, I was like admiring them because they were fucking better than I was as well. And then in the last 2 months, I've sort of caught up to them, but then this guy just flew past all of us. So that's admiration. I can get jealous or shitty or start knocking him and going, oh, he's doing it this way and he's doing it that way and that's not ethical or this, not that. You can start making up all sorts of excuses, but ultimately, I go off the basis of results. If somebody's got better results than me, I want to learn from them. And I took that into my whole life. I've been an athlete or a sports person, and whatever sport I ever played, I found very quickly who was the best, and I'd replicate what they did. I'd mimic everything that they did in order for me to become better, and ultimately I would almost be on par with those sorts of people, whether it was cricket, whether it was rugby, whether it was swimming, water polo, hockey, golf, whatever it was that I played, I would always mimic the guys that did the best in my vicinity or within that sort of realm of that sport, and I would implement it into my own life. So don't ever think that for a second that because you feel that jealousy It's like when you have a missus or a girl that you admire, or when you're younger and you want to, you wish and just, oh my God, I'll do anything to date this girl. And Joe Bloggs comes out of nowhere and you think you're better than that guy, but she dates him and fancies him, and there's something about him that makes him mysterious, intriguing, and curious as for the woman to then date them. And women don't date with their eyes, they date with their ears, and guys date with their eyes. So once you kind of understand that, you realize that the guy doesn't have to be necessarily good looking, because you judge a woman based off of looks. They don't judge them based off looks, right? They judge them based off of character and confidence and things like that. So ultimately you have to utilize that jealousy and admire that guy in some way, shape or form, and then try and work on the characteristics in which that he has that you don't have. And if it's, like I say, it's a skill, you can learn that very quickly. So if the guy's jacked and he's an ugly looking bastard, then it might be because he's in good shape and he's a strong man. And when you're a physically strong man, women like that, because women are more vulnerable in society, so they want somebody that can protect them. That's why the scary looking bastard who may not be a good looking dude is the guy that a lot of the girls go for, because ultimately they know that they can be protected by that man. Now the witty funny guy is also a winner as well. So sometimes you need to work on your characteristics, on how you speak, how you hold yourself, and whether you can make somebody laugh. Whatever it may be. Maybe you're a nerd and you do need to, maybe you're extremely intelligent, maybe you're very successful, but you're a weaselly little nerd. You still might be able to pull a bird, but is she liking you because you've got acquired money, or is it because that you're actually an interesting person? You really got to look at yourself in the mirror and understand. And it's not a matter of to pull yourself down, it's just a matter of looking at your weaknesses and working on them, right? So anyway, day one of me getting back into the gym, day one of me getting back into my routine. And like I say, I'll show you exactly where I was and where I fell off, and then where I'm going back again. So what my goals are. And it's not to be aesthetically pleasing, because once I reach that and realize that you don't actually get any more validation from acquiring that body, it's actually the internal confidence that you're after. When you're stronger, you have a different form of, your level of fear dissipates. So when you become physically strong, you become physically confident in yourself. So you're able to make better decisions. You're able to not fear the outcome of certain instances in your life. So a lot of these things I've learned over time. And there's compression and compassion. It depends on which one that you've had the most in your life. If you've had a lot of compression in your life, you may need compassion. If you've had a lot of compassion in your life, babied your whole life, then you may need some compression, which means that you might need somebody to yell at you and tell you to stop being a bitch. And then the guy who's fucking tells that to himself every day may need, hey mate, you're actually alright, it's all good, you just need a hug. Or you might just need to be told, hey, don't be so hard on yourself. There's two different versions of every individual in this world. There's also personality types. You need to understand your personality type. So doing the 16 personality test is probably one of the best things you could ever do, because you'll learn more about yourself than you ever thought you could. And once you understand yourself, you know your strengths, but you also know your weaknesses. And when you know your weaknesses, you can work on them. And when you know your strengths, you can fucking double down on them. So this is just a little bit of a quick rant, and something that I wanted to share with everybody on day one of getting myself back together. I'm not completely out of the woodwork in terms of what I've got to do. Recently I started smoking again, just having the odd dart here and there, and it just sort of accumulates over a period of time. And most of my life, my adult life, I've been in and out of smoking and bad habits. Porn's a big one as well. Porn can get you by the teeth and by the ears and hold you down for a while, and it's just a silly thing that society has brought into the world. And then when I read an article a while ago, is that back in the day in the war zone areas, right, in order to weaken men, they used to plant and send in a whole bunch of porn magazines and litter the streets with them. And so therefore the men would then consume that porn. They wouldn't then want to engage in sex with the other men, or they'd lose their testosterone or their drive or their hunger or their adrenaline and that aggressiveness, because they're constantly depleting themselves of that aggression, right? So you got to understand that porn is a weapon used against us, and there's a reason why it's so prevalent in society at the moment as well. So it's not to be ashamed of. Fucking 99.999% of all men and women are the fucking worst, actually, to be honest with you. Women are fucking way worse when it comes to porn than anybody else, and people in society tends to not shame them as much as what men do. Men get shamed for it. So don't let anything like that fucking get into your head. Anybody can change, and it's just your perception of what it is that you're looking at. A lot of our subconscious thoughts or our conscious thoughts are, framed in the which to make an excuse in order to keep such behavior in your life, because it's pleasurable, and because it's so pleasurable, you want to keep that behavior in your life, and you want to give yourself an excuse to do so. But ultimately, you need to look at it in a non-biased point of view, and you need to understand: do you feel shame afterwards, or do you feel love? And every time you fucking slap the gherkin, you feel shame. You feel shameful. It's not something that you're proud of. It's not something that you because if you did, you'd do it in the street. Not that you're allowed to, and that's a legal thing to do, but you would be more than happy for anybody to walk in on you. There's a reason why you do it behind closed doors, right? It's because it's a shameful act. And so, ultimately, you need to understand what these things cause. With the action involved, does it cause shame, guilt, and which is a low frequency emotion, or does it cause a high frequency emotion? So obviously going for a run causes a high frequency emotion because you're stacking wins. It's positive and it's progression, in which progression equals happiness. We know this from Tony Robbins. And ultimately, don't consume too much motivation either. But at the same time, utilize it where you need, and put that action into place, because to know and not to do is the same as not knowing. So when you realize that, if you know something and you don't implement it in your life because it's got a positive reinforced action and result behind it, and you don't implement it, then it's the same as somebody who doesn't know about that at all, right? So the law of exposure, when you open your bandwidth up to more information that is of a positive nature, you need to be able to implement that into your life. If you don't, then you're just as good as somebody who doesn't know anything, right? So once again, this is a little bit of a rant, it's a little bit of an intro for you guys, and I'll post you exactly where I'm at, and on a day-to-day basis, and keep in touch with me. Like, comment, subscribe, all of the above, and tell me if you enjoy what I'm sharing. And look, I'm just a tradie that's got himself out of the trades inch by inch, day by day, and year by year. Crawled his way out of a situation in which that he didn't want to be in. Now, if you love the trades and you're doing really well and you're thriving and you've got your own business and you love it, by all means, this is not a video for you. I don't hate the trades. I think it's a great vehicle, but ultimately, if you don't want to be an employee for the rest of your life and be 55 on a job site, you can, here's a guy up here working on a Saturday. All the boys up there grinding hard, doing their work. And like I say, it's not a bad thing, but if you have an escape plan and have a bit of an idea as to where you want to go and what other skills you can acquire in the meantime, that's what I did. I just learned some new skills and managed to get myself out of there. So